I'm back again with another episode that was previously recorded in another podcast. But this time around, this episode talks about our journey on how we became debt-free. It's a really, really great episode. It did really, really well across all the platforms, and we wanted to bring it back to you so that because you are new audience. And so we want to bring this back to you so that you can listen to it. You can really, really gain insights into how to get out of debt financially and become financially peaceful by yourself or with your partner. We hope you enjoy this episode. Take a listen. Hello, I'm Tijani Musa.
And I'm Yasmin Musa, and this is how we're doing it.
Welcome to How We're Doing It. Here we'll share stories about our journey and experiences of being first-generation college graduates, our family, buying our first home, moving across the country, and living a debt-free lifestyle. We do so in an authentic, fun, and educational way to help other first-generation immigrants with similar paths. Shall we get started?
Yes.
Okay. So today, the things that we're going to talk about, since we posted on social media our debt-free journey, I've had some people that reached out to me asking me questions about how we did it. And I couldn't explain to them independently or individually how we did it. And did you have any friends that reached out to you or ask you about the debt-free journey that we did?
Yeah, I did have a couple friends ask, and I've been posting about it throughout the journey. So along the way, I also had people ask.
Okay, so this is probably a good idea for us to record this. And so that way everybody can get access to this recording and hopefully it could be beneficial to them. And if they have any follow-up questions, then they can definitely ask us. And then at that point, we'll be able to address those specific questions or direct them to resources. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea.
All right. So let's get started then. From the beginning, I just want to disclose the topics or some of the areas that we're going to cover. We're going to talk about our debt-free journey, obviously. We're going to share how we were able to pay off our debt. And some of the topics within that are the why. Why did we decide to do a debt-free journey? And then how we did it. What were some of the things that we use or resources that we use to get to where we got to, and some of the obstacles, because anything that you do in this world, there are going to be obstacles, whether internal, external, whether it's people related or expense related. We always are going to face with obstacles. Those are what I call distractions. And what helped us along the way, different things, different variables play a part into our journey. And we're going to talk about also the goal, which is also the why. Why did we want to do this? And what were the conversations like? And then in the end, I would ask Yasmin and myself will provide some words of wisdom or some advice on what people could do, or people that are empowered to get into this journey, and some of the things that they could do to make this dream a possibility. And so let's get started. So Yasmin, why did we want to even embark on a debt-free journey? What were some of the conversations like?
Well, it all started last summer when I was on my last semester of grad school, and we kind of had a little dilemma going on because I didn't have any money to pay for it. I was also in the middle of moving from one job to another, in one district to another. And so there was going to be a little gap where I wasn't going to be getting a paycheck. So we started panicking, up until that point, I had scholarship money I was using to finance my master's degree, but that was gone, and we didn't have anything in our savings. And it was just a real shock to us that it happened, that we were at that point.
Yeah, and it's not like we weren't working. We were still working. I was still working. I had a job, but just because things happen at once, unexpected, it just threw us off. And it sounds like what you're describing is like hitting rock bottom.
Yeah, I would say that was our rock bottom, honestly, because from that, we realized that there were things that we were doing wrong. Like, we were married, but we weren't combining our finances together. Like we each still had our own bank accounts, and we really weren't talking much about money. We were just kind of hoping that, we'd get by.
Yeah, I remember one time you mentioned to me that uh, you feel like we were living two separate households in the same house.
We were roommates. That's what we were.
Yeah, that was for me. That was what hit me in the head and be like, "What are you doing, Tijani? You need to wake up." It's not that we were still paying some of the debt that we had independently. It's just that we did not come together and combine our income so that we could work together as a team.
Yeah.
So, and we had a deep conversation about finances. How did you think the conversation went?
Well, before we had that deep conversation, I had a date with one of my girlfriends, and she just kind of knocked some sense into me and told me, "Girl, you should look into Dave Ramsey." And I'd heard of him, but I didn't want to follow anything that he said, because I hadn't done enough research about him.
Right. I remember when you came to me and told me about the social hangout that you had with your girlfriend. And I was like, babe, I spoke to you about Dave Ramsey 2 years ago because I had taken the class and I had the resources I was sharing with you, but you were just not into it.
I wasn't ready for it, honestly. I mean, at the time we were still dating, and honestly, my thinking was, it's my money. Like, don't tell me what to do with my money. We're not married. And by the time I met with her, we were at a different point. We were, that's when we really started to think about our future and what that was going to look like. And then we realized, hey, we have all this debt that's keeping us from accomplishing all these goals and dreams that we have. So we should do something about it.
Yeah. And we decided to do something about it. The thing that changed since you had that meeting with your friend, it's like the light switch just went off. Like this whole time I was talking to you about it, but it didn't click to you. And then so when you came back from that meeting with your girlfriend, it just changed the person you became. Like you started listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast, pretty much everything Dave Ramsey. When you go to work, you listen to it. After work, you listen to it. In the bathroom, you listen to him. I was like, man, you are like Dave Ramsey's daughter.
Yeah, I really bought into it. I started listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast. And then from that, I started learning more about Financial Peace University and what that was, what the baby steps were. And then I started getting plugged into listening to some of the other Ramsey personalities like Rachel Cruz, his daughter, Chris Hogan, Ken Coleman, Anthony O'Neill, who talks about student loans. And all of it just kind of led me to the same idea of we need to get out of debt as soon as possible.
Yeah, Anthony, he talks about pretty much there is a way that people could go to college without having to take student loan. Like that is his specialty. Try to save you money or try to give you options or alternatives in going to college without having to take thousands and thousands of dollars in student loans. And so prior to you meeting with your girlfriend, and then prior to us actually sitting down, we've had like conversations around money and debt, but we just never were on the same channel. And so when we hit that rock bottom, when you were transitioning between jobs, and then you talked to your girlfriend, and we decided to have that meeting. And then after that, we actually just bought into Dave Ramsey and we started following his baby steps.
Yeah, that was really the turning point. I guess before that, we would talk about money, but we didn't have a plan for our money. We were just kind of going with the flow.
Right. And then so once we decided that we wanted to do what we wanted to do was getting out of debt, we just bought into it. There was no ifs, no buts.
Yeah. So the first thing we did is we had a budget meeting. I guess you could call it a budget meeting. We basically sat down and listed all of the debt that we had combined.
Right.
From smallest to largest. And that was a really hard day for us. I just remember it was very emotional. It was hard to see how together we had over $30,000 of debt. And it was just, crazy to think that we have this income that we don't even see because we're just sending it all to the banks and the loans and the payments that we have.
Right. And some of the, can you talk about like some of the stuff that were in this debt? Like some of the items that we had to pay off?
I mean, we had everything from medical bills to credit cards. We had a lot of credit card debt between both of us. 2 car loans, 1 personal loan, a student loan.
Right. So we had everything on there. From everything, we listed them from lowest to highest. So from top to bottom, the highest amount is at the bottom, right? That's what you're saying, from least to greatest?
Yes.
All right. And then pretty much after we did that, both of us were like on the same channel, and we were drinking the same water. We speaking the same language when it comes to money. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And so pretty much what helped us, we just bought into Dave Ramsey and just followed his blueprint, the baby step. Like people would always say, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If the wheel is already invented, all you have to do is just follow it or enhance it. And so Dave Ramsey has over 25, 30 years of experience helping people throughout the world and in the United States. And so he has a proven system that works. If you buy into it and you are intentionally into it, it works. And so we just bought into it and started doing what we needed to do to get out of debt.
Yeah. So his first baby step is that you save $1,000 as an emergency fund. And that's in case anything comes up while you're working the plan. You use that money instead of charging it to a credit card. In baby steps 2, he has you list your debt from smallest to largest, and then you cut up all your credit cards.
That was the credit card cut up. That's something that you had fun doing, because I remember recording you and you were just like enjoying that process of cutting up credit cards. But that process of cutting up that credit card, it's a very emotional process too.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was hard because, I mean, obviously, I love Victoria's Secret. I had the Victoria's Secret credit card, and just cutting it up, it was emotional more than anything. Like, oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to splurge on myself anytime I want anymore.
Right. Pretty much cutting up that credit card, that's pretty much the step that a lot of people can't get over, because they think that if they cut up that credit card, something is going to happen. And so, but you have to trust the process, right? Because when you cut up that credit card, you automatically become committed to the process. And so that $1,000 that you save from baby step 1, if something were to happen, you could utilize that, as long as after using that $1,000, you just have to replace it, correct?
Yes. And knowing that, if something comes up too that you can save up for, then it's preferred you do that.
Right.
Rather than taking from that emergency fund too. You have to define what an emergency means for you.
That is very important. So the fund is an emergency fund. So emergencies are different from person to person. So you have to describe what that emergency is to you. And so only use that when you don't have any other option but to use that fund.
Yeah.
And so what were some of the other things that we did? Some of the sacrifices that we did?
So we've been living in a very small apartment for a while now, but we live here because it's affordable rent.
Right. And
we knew that if we made the sacrifice to stay here a little longer, it would just mean for us that we could get out of debt faster. Right.
And living in a affordable apartment, what else did we do? Because we have to eat.
But we just started budgeting how much we spent on food.
Right.
So I started shopping at more affordable grocery stores, such as Aldi. And then also we cut back a lot on eating out. You basically don't eat out at all anymore.
Right. So pretty much when we get invited to go eat out, we ask, is this going to cost us money? After asking that question, we ask, is this on the budget? And so if both of those questions are a yes, or say we ask the first question, is this going to cost us money? If it's a yes, is it on the budget? If it's a no, then we don't go out. If it's on the budget, then we may decide to go out. Is that how we did it?
Yeah. So that's what Dave would call gazelle intensity.
Right.
You're doing what you can to get out of debt as fast as you can.
At all costs.
At all costs, yeah. Another thing we did is that I'm a big shopper. I love shopping, spending money. New seasons come, I want new clothes.
Right.
And I really had to learn how to control that aspect of myself, and just be content with what I have already. And you know, if I didn't need new clothes for a special occasion, for example, we would just make sure that we put it in the budget and that I wasn't spending, you know, a crazy amount.
Right. And this is also important right here. We held each other accountable throughout the process, because we've had times when you really wanted to buy something and you just, man, I really want to go out today and eat at a restaurant. And I'll caution you and be like, babe, you can do this. We got this. Let's just cook at home. Let's make something at home.
Yeah, we really started thinking about what we were craving and how we can make that at home.
Right. So, and honestly, I think most of the things that you make, it tastes even better at home than me buying them. And I always tell you, if we spend $20 at Aldi to buy some stuff and come and make food at home, we have more food than we would if we were to spend $50 at a restaurant.
Yeah.
In addition to those, we did two things. Well, both of us did something that was also very, very important. We increased our incomes. How did we do that?
So it's not my proudest job, but I started delivering food with Uber Eats.
Right.
And like I said, it wasn't my best job or my favorite, but it got some extra income in our household. And then additionally, I also, after graduating with my master's, I started looking for extra part-time work. So I took a job on the weekends that just brought some more money home as well.
Right. And also when you graduated, your income increased at work, correct?
Yes, it did. Yeah. After graduating with my master's, I was able to apply for an income increase now that I had my master's completed.
Right. And in addition to that, I, at the time, also had a part-time job that I still have. On the weekend, I work at a community center to earn extra income. And that, in addition to our full-time jobs, we also working part-times, both of us. Yasmin would teach all day, and then she comes home. And as soon as she comes home, she gets ready to go do Uber Eats and deliver meals to earn extra income. And then you also picked up a part-time job in addition to that. So you were doing 3 jobs at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing 2 jobs, my part-time job and my full-time job. So we were gazelle intense during those 8 months.
Yeah, I mean, we just worked a lot. It was our season of sacrificing for a better goal, you know, for our future.
Right. And I remember also sometimes you will come home and then you have to leave. And because I was working from home, I was like, I would have to call you sometimes and be like, babe, when are you coming home?
And I'd be like, let me place my last order.
That's right. Let me just finish this one. And it'll be raining outside. I'm like, man.
When it rains, you make more money.
That's right. I mean, the surge goes up because then people don't want to go out. And so you're out there risking your life trying to get that money so we can tackle this debt.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do what you got to do.
That's right. And so this journey wasn't just all fluffy and all amazing. We had some obstacles along the way.
Yeah, we definitely did. I mean, obviously, like at first, we just weren't working together. Like I said, we had like separate bank accounts, and it felt like we were just roommates. We were 2 separate households sleeping in the same bed together at night.
It wasn't that bad, babe.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't that bad, but financially probably, but we were still amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess.
What were some of the other things that trying to stop us, some of the distractions?
Right after we started, I actually had a medical emergency that required me to seek medical care. And because I was in the middle of transitioning jobs, I didn't have health insurance for that 1 month that I really needed it. And it was just like, you know, when we had started and we saw a little bit of progress and then this happened and it was like, oh my God, of course something had to go wrong.
Right. It's like every time you are in the process of improving something will just come out of nowhere and just hit you. So like you're taking 5 steps forward and like 3
10 back.
Yep. like, why?
Yeah.
And then I had a car emergency as well, where I had to replace all four of my car tires, and that was also unexpected because they really hurt us.
I guess we could have planned better for that one, like we should have known that the car was going to need new tires at some point. But like I said, we just didn't have a plan before.
Right. And then you had another car emergency, but this time around,
yeah.
What was different about this one?
This last car emergency was really towards the end of our dead snowball.
Right.
And it was like a $2,000 repair for my car. But, at that time we were like, all right, like, cool, we'll just pay for it, like it did keep us from sending that money to our debt snowball.
Right.
But we used some of our emergency fund and just cash flowed it, the rest as our paycheck came in. And so it really wasn't such a heavy burden anymore. It was like, all right, another bump on the road. We'll get it done, and then we'll keep going.
Yeah, the car emergency that you had, we were better positioned to handle that one because it didn't feel like a burden to us because we were able to cover it without breaking the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. And then along our journey, also, my grandparents came to visit the USA for the first time.
Right.
And it was really exciting, but then they also got sick.
Yeah, I remember, because when they first came, they visited Virginia and they were staying with your parents for a while. And so we will go down there, we'll take them out, we go to DC and do different visits around the area, just try to show them. And all of those things would cost some money. We just weren't prepared for some of the expenses to help assist your grandparents and your parents as well.
Yeah.
And then they went to a relative in Florida, and that's where they got sick.
And they got really sick. Like they were, my grandfather was in the ICU, and that was really costly.
Yeah, that was very scary because I think it was it New Year or Christmas that we were celebrating something.
Yeah, on New Year's Eve is when he was taken to the hospital, and then on New Year's Day, that's when my mom and I traveled down to Florida.
Yeah, that was really scary because I remember on New Year's Eve, your mom and your dad almost went to Florida that very night.
Yeah.
And so it was a scary thing. And man, that ICU was so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell the listeners how much it was that they said?
No, I don't even want to say it.
Let's just say that it was more than my income. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right. That was a scary time. And so that whole experience with your grandparents, we see it as a blessing and a cost. Not a curse, but like a cost, because it cost a lot to maintain the whole time that they were here.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I do.
And so along this journey, there were some things that we did that also helped us. Can you name some of the things that, came and helped us in the journey that made the process easier for us?
Yeah. So one thing I will say is we found that when we started, God just kind of helped us along the way. Mm-hmm. It's like when you start being intentional and responsible with your money, God starts finding ways to help you and to send it to you. And to us, that was like a miracle unfolding in front of us. And, I'll get into like what things happened that led us to believe that. But money just kind of started coming in from unexpected places.
Yeah. We really did get money from different places that we weren't even expecting. Can you talk about some of those places?
Yeah. So one of the first ones we got is that I got 2 or 3 years ago, a while ago, my taxes were filed incorrectly, and I refiled them last year, and then that money started coming in. I had refiled them probably in March, and then the money started coming in in November?
Right.
Yeah. And so those refunds started coming in, and we're just like, all right, throw it to the debt.
And we didn't even know you could do that.
No. It was just, finally, I had gotten some advice on how taxes should be filed appropriately and how I shouldn't have paid when I'm on a teacher's salary.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was just a blessing, this money coming in that we were not expecting.
And there was another one. There was another source of income that came in that actually surprised us. Can you talk about that one?
Yeah. So we mentioned at the beginning that the reason why we started this is because we couldn't afford my last semester of graduate school, right?
Right.
Well, think about this. How crazy is it that then once I had started the semester, like mid-semester, I get a tuition refund. And I'm shook. I'm like, what? Why? How?
Yeah, since when do you hear a university gives you a refund back?
Yeah, but apparently I had been overcharged for my classes and they were sending me the money that I paid extra back. But it's just crazy to me how that was the reason why we started this in the first place, is because we couldn't afford my last semester.
Right.
And then once we started, once again, like I said, being intentional or responsible with the money, God sent it right back to us.
Yeah, that was a very unique one and very interesting one. I was excited and happy. When you told me about that, I was like, yeah. Until I actually saw it, I didn't believe that was going to happen. And then what happened after that?
I mean, we filed our taxes together for the first time as a married couple.
Right.
We got a refund.
And it was chunky. See,
it was chunky.
it was a lot of money that I wasn't expecting. See, when the taxes came, I was very emotional. You know why?
Oh, why?
Because when we received our money, we did not take a single penny from that money. We sent it directly to the debt.
I remember telling my mom, like, oh, Mom, this is how much we're getting. Because my mom's always trying to ask us how much we're going to get back.
Right.
And I told her and she's like, ooh, you could probably use those $40 at the end for something. At least you guys should at least go out to eat. And then I remember telling you and you were like, no, we're going to pay the debt.
Right. Because we were on a goal and nothing could stop us except things that we don't have control over. So we're doing our best to stay on the course and trusting the process. And that's just what we did. We sacrificed everything.
Yeah, but sacrifice was worth it.
That's right. And then after those tax returns, what else did we get?
I mean, coronavirus hit.
Yeah.
And then we got stimulus checks.
Coronavirus. That was also a blessing and a curse. A blessing in the sense that we had the checks from the government. And the curse is that obviously it's a pandemic. It's killing a lot of people. And we're very saddened about that.
Yeah. It's such a blessing to still be getting an income during that time.
Right. So that's something that we don't take lightly. And then I receive bonuses from my work. And then that also helped us because just when we started to be responsible, things were just happening. I received like bonuses from work for just doing excellent work. And we used all those monies to pay the debt.
Yeah.
And we also, what else did we do? We just what?
We stuck to our budget.
Right.
I mean, we really did not spend money on unnecessary things.
Right.
I stopped shopping on Amazon as much as I used to before.
Well, you didn't really stop. You still shop. It's just that you don't take things to your cart and actually having to pay them. But what do you call it when you just take a look at things and then you just add them, but you don't end up paying for them?
I don't know what the exact name for that is.
But you enjoy doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's my new hobby. I online shop, put things in my cart, and then I don't buy them.
I like that one. You told me about that. I was like, I didn't even know that's a thing. You could just sit there and just click, oh, I like this. Oh, I like this. But you don't end up paying for it because it's not in the budget.
Yeah.
And before we continue, because some people think that when you're on a budget, it means that you don't do things that you want to do. Can you like clarify what like some of the stereotypes?
Yeah. So a lot of people think that you're on a budget, that means you're broke. And that's not the case. That just means that you have control of your money and you decide what you're spending your money on. We had like our anniversary celebration during the middle of our snowball. And we decided, hey, it's our anniversary. We want to do something nice. So we budgeted a certain amount of money to make that celebration happen. Right. Along the way, we also had birthdays for our family members and loved ones.
Right.
We just budgeted that in. It didn't mean that just because we were in debt and on a budget that we weren't going to still, allocate money to celebrate others or the things that we, are special to us.
Right. For me, the way I see a budget is you're assigning a task to a specific dollar. So whatever, you're taking this dollar and be like, okay, you are assigned to this task. You are assigned to this task. And so when you run out of dollars, then you should run out of tasks. So the budget is the guide that helps you assign your task to your dollar.
Yeah.
And what else happened? What else do we do in the house? We did something in the house. We started selling things?
Oh yeah. So we started selling a lot of our household items that we didn't need or have any use for since we had bought them. And I started posting things on Facebook Marketplace, and all of a sudden, extra cash started coming in.
Right. Yeah. So we have 2 cats. So Yasmin and I would just started selling everything. And at some point, the cats thought that they were about to be sold. And so those are the things that we had to do. It wasn't an easy process, but we trusted the process throughout the journey.
Yeah.
And so what was our end goal? Why did we even decide to do this?
I think at the end of the day, we just really want to create a better future for ourselves and our children.
Right.
At some point we want to start a family. And so we're just thinking ahead of what we want to leave for them. What kind of lifestyle do we want to share with our children?
Right.
And yeah, that's really what motivates us.
Yeah, that was a huge motivation because we're comparing ourselves right now, our lives, and comparing the things that our parents could do for us and the things that they couldn't do for us. And then we think about the things that we want to do for our kids, for our future kids. And so we just started, getting into it. So how much was this debt?
The whole debt was $34,917.40.
And it was paid off in how many months?
In 8 months.
Wow, that's amazing. That's like averaging about $4,364.68 monthly.
Yeah, I mean, there were months where we paid less than others, depending on how much money we had at hand.
That makes a lot of sense. How did you feel after we actually finished that goal? We actually accomplished that goal. We paid off that $34,917.40 in 8 months. How did you feel?
I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my back. The first day when we sat down and looked at that, I was a mess. I was just crying and just so scared, honestly, that we had all this debt. And the day that we paid it off, I just remember being so relieved and happy that all of this was behind us now.
Right. And just because we paid off the debt doesn't mean that we're not in the process anymore, because we're currently taking the class as we speak, correct?
Yeah, so we started Financial Peace University before coronavirus.
Right.
And got through to 2 classes. And
in person,
yeah.
Right.
And then we started again a second time through virtually. So we're on class 5 coming up?
Yep, we're on class 5, even though the debt is paid off. Because Dave Ramsey, the FPU, the Financial Peace University, has the steps that you need to get out of debt. And so each class walks you through step-by-step process. This is all written down. It's all recorded. You can find it online. You can buy his books. You can go to his website. The resources are there. So you just have to stay committed and stay true to the process.
Well, and like you said, we're not done yet. Now that we're out of debt, we want to save an emergency fund.
Right.
What Dave Ramsey would call his baby step 3. Right. And that's to save 3 to 6 months of expenses.
Right.
As an emergency fund for whatever your definition of emergencies is.
Right. And while we are working on that, saving, we've changed our lifestyle a little bit where now we can actually give to causes that we care about.
Yeah.
That's something that we weren't able to do before because we had to worry about, taking care of things at home. So we would give things here and there. We'll see people on the streets and we would give them money, or we would give to causes we care about. But now we actually have it on a budget.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest thing too is we actually see our money now. When it hits our bank accounts, we're not sending it to anybody else. It's our money.
Man, that just emotionally, it just feels great to actually know that when you're making your money, you can actually see it.
Yeah. We no longer have to pass it on. It gets to stay with us.
Yeah, man. I feel really good about that one. And that's my favorite part of the journey. After we paid off the debt and we actually are in the plus, now. We can actually see our money.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to me.
Yeah. And then now we're out of debt. We're able to cash flow your education. So I don't know if your listeners know, but you're going back to grad school this fall.
Yeah, the listeners on LVD, the La Verdad Duele podcast, didn't know about that. That's like exclusive. You just broke it. You just broke it to them. So that's exclusive. So that's a gift. So what does cash flowing means?
So that means that we're going to save the money so that we pay for it.
Right.
Semester by semester.
So I don't have to take a loan, correct?
No, we're never going back into debt. The only exception would be a mortgage, but we're not taking out a loan to finance education or cars or any of that.
And mortgage is also part of the baby steps that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
When it's time, when we get to that level, then we get to that level and then we'll start discussing that, correct?
Yes.
So it's, like I said, it's all written down. It's all proven. This is like, from the beginning, I mentioned that Dave Ramsey has helped over millions and millions of people, both domestically and internationally. And so this journey has shaped us financially. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And so the last thing that we wanted to talk about is that what were some of the words of wisdom that you have? Because me and you, we did it together,
Mm-hmm.
but we have people that are not married, or they don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner. So what were some of the advice that you can give for those individuals and also for partners?
One of the things I would say is, like, if you're single, start getting your finances figured out. Do some research on Dave Ramsey and his plan. And if you are someone that's single, he always recommends that you find someone who's going to be your accountability partner.
Right.
So that person holds you accountable for how you're handling your money and how you're working the plan.
Right.
And go ahead.
And then you have to trust the process, because like I mentioned about cutting up those credit cards, until you cut up those credit cards, you're not going to be fully into the process, because you can't, there's no ish in this process. You're either all in or not in at all.
Yeah.
So,
and a big part of being all in is that it's going to help you get out of debt faster. If
Right.
you're just kind of like, oh, I'm Dave-ish, well, then it's going to take you a lot longer and you're not going to see the progress. Like for us, knocking out the debt from smallest to largest was so helpful, because you see the progress. We had a board and I was crossing things off as we were paying them off. And that was just the most rewarding thing for me. Like, I was seeing our progress. I was tracking it on our bank accounts. And it was just so helpful for me to have that as a visual.
yeah, that was like therapeutic for you. Like you were having fun with crossing out things. It was like an activity for you.
I had like pages I would color into. I got really into it.
You really enjoyed it. So before you get into this process, you need to know why you want to get into this process. You think knowing the why is important throughout the process?
Knowing your why?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So you got to figure out why it is that you want to do it. Why do you want to get out of debt? Because that's different from from person to person.
Correct.
I know for us, we want to accomplish a future that was not available to us growing up.
Right.
And we want to be in a place where we can give generously and do little things that we love without having to swipe a credit card.
Right. Right. And honestly, once you start trusting the process and once you buy into it, like we said, once you make the intention to start taking care of your money, God will help you along the way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And before we end this episode of La Verdad Duele podcast, we also want to be mindful that, a little disclaimer that we understand, the country that we live in, and we understand that there are opportunities that are available to others that are also not available to other group of people. For example, the tax income that we talked about.
Tax refunds?
Yeah, the refunds. People don't have access to those. And we talked about the checks from the government. Some people don't have access to those. And so that we are mindful of that. Irrespective of those checks that we talked about, the process itself works. And so you just have to buy into it and look at the steps that are already outlined by Dave Ramsey to follow those steps, and you actually will be able to get to where we are today.
I think if anything, that extra money helped us get out of debt faster.
Right.
We would have still, done it. It would have just or without that money there.
That's right. Instead of 8 months, probably would have been like 10 months
10 months.
Yeah. But we would have still be able to accomplish the goal without those checks.
And when we started, we thought we were going to finish in like August 2020. Like we didn't expect to finish so soon.
And obviously when we were making a plan, we didn't anticipate that there would be a coronavirus that would send us checks.
Or money sent from God.
Or money sent from God. Or taxes that you haven't taxes.
Yeah, that's money sent from God.
Yeah. So all of those things. So we'll just combine those things. Those are money sent from God. But the process does work. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
All right. So the last thing before we conclude this episode, I just want to, thank you so much again for taking your time to come in to my podcast. Like I said from the start, you are officially the first person ever to be invited to this podcast. You are my first guest. How do you feel about that?
It's an honor. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I'm going to give, is it okay for me to provide your Instagram account to people so that they can follow you? If they have any questions about the things that we've talked about, they can reach out to you?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So you can follow my wife at Shawty_16. The way it's spelled is SH0RTY_16. That's how you can get in touch with Yasmin Musa. And again, I am very honored to sit here in the studio with my wife and talk about the topic that we just talked about. When it comes to financials, or when it comes to money, it's just an emotional topic to discuss. And my wife and I were able to get to a place where we were able to work together as a team because we have common goals. We have goals that we have set forth. And in order for us to achieve those goals, we have to work together as a team. And we intend to do so moving forward for as long as we are alive. And so do you have any last minute things that you want to say?
Yeah. We're not sharing our story to brag or to get any acknowledgement for what we've done. The real reason why we're sharing it is because we want to show others that it is possible, that it's something that you can accomplish if you set your mind to it.
Thank you so much. That's it. And you can find us anywhere you listen to your podcast. And you have been listening to La Verdad Duele. And this is Tijani Musa. It is Yasmin Musa, who I am also lucky to call my wife. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that during the time that you were listening to this episode, you were taking notes on the baby steps that we used to get out of debt. We enjoyed recording this episode. We enjoyed sharing tips on how we did it, and we hope that you gained enough insights to go ahead and do the same thing. And we wish you well. We wish you good luck.
Mama. Bye-bye.